What up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Average Joe's X and O's podcast. Max and Nick here with you, and we got a lot to talk about today, man. A couple things have happened over the last week, 2 weeks since the draft. Schedule releases are coming out today. We got a little teaser for some leaks here and there, but we got the week 1 matchups that we're going to break down a little bit later. But yeah, man, fuck, there's just little nice nuggets I think we should kind of hit on.
Dive into it a little bit.
First thing, I thought this was interesting, and it's funny. I'll tell you the story that after it happened, I was working and I didn't realize that whole DK Metcalf little race it was Olympic trials, right? For 100 meter.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to do I think it was Olympic trials, but he was just doing the 100 meter, fuck it. I'm going to be a level athlete. Why not?
Here's what's crazy is reminder for everybody that see that shit. These are sprinters that are literally trying to make the Olympics, right? So one of my buddies, I sent it to him, because in his heat he finished 9th, I think, I think it was a 10.35 or 10.37 or something like that.
10.36.
I was almost there.
You split the day. You had it right there.
Dude, my one buddy that I work with, he's like, what do you mean? He got beat by high schoolers, and he's kind of tearing it down. I'm like, dude, you realize that these sprinters aren't 6'3", 230 pounds, and he's hanging with them,
right?
And it's not what he trains for. It's
pretty impressive. He's trained all of probably a week to run this. I'll just give it a shot and then finish 9th.
Not to mention that if let's say all those people were running in pads and helmet and all that shit, right? He probably doesn't even slow down too much, whereas everybody else would. I mean, so put that motherfucker in pads and let him run, and he's probably pretty close to the same speed, or he's going to be a little
hilarious.
But
hilarious thing was that I was watching it, and I'm like, oh, which one's DK? On the starting blocks. Oh, which one is he? And then as soon as they took off and stood up, I'm like, oh, there he is, because he was the giant motherfucker running with all these short little dudes. I'm like, oh, there he is, because he's all of 6'4", just booking it. He started off good. It was the towards the end is where he started to, but I mean, right off the rip, he was good. And then it was as the other guys kind of picked up steam. Yeah. I bet you if he trained for that, though, he'd be a monster.
Yeah. Because, I mean, unless he breaks away to run for a touchdown or chase that dude down in that one game last year, whenever is he really running 100 meters straight,
Now, the guy that I think could really contend for that is the guy that the Browns picked, Anthony Schwartz. Yeah. I think he would have probably finished pretty good.
Well, that was his sport too. He was kind of if he wanted to, he probably could have competed at a high level to get to the Olympics and chose not to. So very interesting. I do think he's going to be a better route runner than people think, though. So we'll see. I can't wait to see how that translates. Speaking of receivers, we might as well this is something I didn't have written down, but we can kind of get into it because people are talking about how the Ravens addressed some receiver issues and stuff like that. But here's the thing, a lot of receivers went in the draft this year, probably more than especially in that first round, more than ever. I don't want to say ever, but in many years, right? I don't have that data in front of me, but I know it's been a while. And we know for a while that a lot of these receivers were not really transitioning well into the NFL for whatever reason, mainly due to, simple routes running trees at the college level. But think about that for a second. The Ravens literally have taken a receiver. I think they've taken 5 receivers fairly high over the last so many years. And I don't know, man. What's your thoughts on I guess what I'm asking is, out of all these receivers taken that we all think were studs, they were all studs in college. Just statistically, not all of them can be good, right? Jamar Chase.
No, but I think all of them could.
You know what I mean?
I think they can carve out a niche. I think they can carve out a niche in what they're doing. Just kind of depends on what you value in the scheme you're running. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, the guy, so Rashad Bateman is the receiver that one of those guys that's very solid route runner, can create separation in and out of break. I think he's going to fit the. So, you know, kind of what the Ravens are going for is something to complement the deep speed that Hollywood Brown brings, but a consistent, hands catcher, separator, working short to intermediate parts of the field, which I think he'll do just fine in. But I mean, as any rookie receiver comes in, you're looking at, the ability to develop as a player, you know what I mean, in Minnesota as a receiver. So with that being said, he's going to have a ton of things to work on. He's going to, have to learn the NFL game, learn the playbook. Technique is going to need to be refined, just like anybody that's coming out. But you take, your guys like Jamar Chase, like Jalen Waddle, like Devonta Smith, those guys are elite level athletes, you know what I mean? Like speed wise, elite level, just physical traits. So, you hope that those physical traits translate into what it takes to play receiver in the NFL. And that's why you take guys like that high. A guy like Rashad Bateman was a consistent college player and, really consistent and dynamic ball player, not because of his elite physical traits, which he does have some good ones, but it was because of how he played the position. Mm-hmm. And I think, when you get guys that are kind of technically savvy like that, I think they have a good potential to find a really good niche in the NFL, versus guys that are just relying on their elite athleticism to win matchups. Like in the NFL, everybody has elite athleticism. Like you're not gonna be the best athlete out on the field. Everybody's a excellent athlete. So but that's what when you draft a guy like that, that's what you hope for, right? Like you hope, and by a guy like that, like with Bateman, you hope that the stuff that he did in college from a route running standpoint and some of his technical aspects, you hope that translates and you can kind of grow that into a more refined player. So, we'll see. Yeah. He's a different ball player than what Hollywood Brown is.
Oh yeah. Really? That's something I want to see I want to keep track of these receivers that were drafted in the first round and kind of track their season and see how they do. I'll dive in more to the Ravens because some stats I was hearing, it makes me wonder. It'll be a good topic to debate. We'll get into that whenever we break down some of these week one matchups because they're one of them. But speaking of new receivers, let's talk about this Tim Tebow news. Okay, Twitter's kind of going wild. I know, dude. Even some NFL players were not necessarily happy about it, and I don't think they're in the wrong to kind of like the points they were making. I don't think we're in the wrong. A lot of people thought that they were just hating on Tim Tebow, and I don't really think it has anything to do with Tim Tebow personally. I think it just has their thing is like, hey, like there's people trying to make the team. Or any team, and there's young, hungry guys that play that position that probably are going to be better than what a 33-year-old Tebow who's never played the position and is trying to play at the highest level. I think that's the biggest issue, and like it's an organizational issue where like the buddy thing that everybody talks about, which is part of the reason why they think there's. I mean, there's only a couple black head coaches, but like that whole thing. And then, just, and I've preached that all the time, dude. It's always about who right? So the connection it's going to be loud with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow is one of those things. Now there's no guarantee he's going to make the team, but the fact that we're sitting here and this shit's happening is pretty wild.
Well, I mean, think about from a logical standpoint, granted talent wise, a guy that is, how old is he? 33, 34 years old, switching positions after not playing in the NFL for a decade right?
Almost. Yeah.
So he's got an uphill battle to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think Urban Meyer looks at it and brings him in, not necessarily as, hey, this guy's going to be a key contributor on the field for us. Maybe he is. I don't know. It's hard to say. But what you are getting, what kind of person you're getting, especially from a locker room standpoint, from a culture standpoint. If Urban Meyer is going to build a specific standard and have a specific mindset out of all the people that have been in the NFL that were available, like Tim Tebow is the guy that understands what Urban Meyer is about. and understands what kind of message to convey to the team, from that aspect. So, I mean, he is bringing more of an intangible side of things from, just from a culture standpoint, attitude standpoint. Hey, here's, expectations, just as an assistant, essentially almost like another coach on the field, because of what that relationship was with Urban in Florida and what to expect. Now, I don't even know that he makes a team, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But that presence is Urban obviously values that. And I don't think it's a slight to any of the players that are out there. I think it's mostly Urban trusts Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow trusts Urban Meyer. There's a relationship beforehand, like you alluded to. It's about who you know. And, I think what he's really bringing him in for is to kind of, establish that standard, to establish, that the expectation of players, et cetera. And everybody knows, hey, if there's anybody that knows what it is when it comes to that side of it for Urban Meyer, it's Tim Tebow. So I don't even know. Like I said, I think this might all be, a due to nothing, because I don't know that he makes a team, to be honest with you. Yeah, I can't see any any way for him to make the squad, especially once cuts and stuff start to happen after camps and everything. So I don't see it, but just kind of a body and a culture fit.
Well, it makes you wonder though, if that's the case for the locker room stuff, why didn't you just bring him on as an assistant coach, instead of a player, which could still be a possibility. But the one thing I will say about Tebow is he's always been an athlete, right? Dude does work hard, strict, even to this day. He's always taken care of himself, so he hasn't taken a lot of damage over the last 10 years. So he's got that going for him. He's healthy. I think, we've all seen him with the football in his hands. He was basically a tight end at quarterback anyway. You know what I mean? The other thing that he'll have to learn is he's gonna have to block and do these things he's not used to doing. So but if you're just talking about a physical athlete, the guy with strength and all that stuff, and I think with the work he puts in, physically he might be capable of doing it. But he's only got a short amount of time to put it together, So I don't know, man.
Well, it is. He does have an uphill battle again, running routes versus, playing quarterback position. It's a whole new ball game. And we just talked about rookie receivers that came into the NFL that, have to kind of learn more of that nuanced approach to route running and, kind of how to beat defenses and what to expect, with certain things like your sight adjustments, et cetera. Tim Tebow is going to have to go through the same process as never playing the tight end position. Mm-hmm. So I think this is more or less for the attitude and tangible side of things versus his actual physical, what he brings to the field physically for the team. I don't think he's going to be a stats, monster for them. I just think he's going to be a good locker room presence. So,
we're going to find out.
That's even if he stays. But
we're going to find out. For sure, I'd like to see him at least play a preseason game and see what happens,
And shit, if Trevor Lawrence didn't bring enough buzz to Jacksonville, signing Tim Tebow is going to bring fucking a flock of media there, that's what, hey, we're going to put butts in seats this year because we got fucking Tim Tebow and Trevor Lawrence. Right. It's if all else fails, it's a great marketing strategy for him to sell out some tickets, So.
Right. Yeah, man, I don't know. Crazy fucking NFL's crazy, dude. Super crazy. Speaking of crazy, let's do this little update on the Rodgers watch. I thought I saw the other day. They came back with an offer, right, to make it a big. But see, here's the thing: Rodgers he's made money up until this point. You know what I mean? He had a pretty big contract. It seems like, based on what Adam Schefter was saying, that the issues that he has had has been over time, and I don't know if him making money is in his. Obviously we can't read minds. We don't know what's going through Aaron Rodgers' mind. But from the outside looking in, it just seems like that money's not going to fix the issues that he thinks are issues. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's going to fix it. And he hasn't accepted it yet, right?
Right. I haven't seen that. Why would they? They just literally, Adam Schefter just tweeted, they just signed Blake Bortles now.
Oh, shit. So, I did not know that.
Yeah. So yeah, it just happened. So yeah, I mean,
Dude,
now you got another quarterback in camp to contend with. You got Jordan Love, Blake Bortles, Ron is still there.
who?
However, Aaron Rodgers, Ron,
Oh.
yeah. If
I
you
don't
ever
know why I
watched
didn't catch
if
that.
you ever watch Key and Peele, that's it. But yeah, man. So, well, I mean, is this move
They're definitely
indicative
trying to cover
of?
their ass. They're covering that tells
Well,
me they're covering their ass because
well,
they
I
only
don't. Does
had.
that right? Are things irreparable at this point, or is it? Is this just kind of a camp signing? You might be
Well,
cut
because
at some
no,
point,
because here's
etc.
the thing: like OTAs are about to start up and stuff, and I think bringing in
Right.
Bortles kind of is like, okay, well, shit, we need to get another guy in there. If Rodgers doesn't show up to OTAs or anything, what we have before going into camp, then we got to be prepared, right? So,
Right.
oh man, dude, it's crazy, man. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but this is
There's
very
a 1 year deal
similar.
for Bortles.
What's
So
that? Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's a 1 year deal. It just popped up. So
this is very similar to what went on with, I mean, nobody thought, I didn't think freaking Favre would leave, Green Bay, and that whole thing happened that year. So we're kind of in a very similar situation to an extent. And yeah, man, I don't know. It's pretty crazy, but imagine how, say Rodgers leaving the Packers, how much that changes that division, right? Because with Rodgers gone, I think Green Bay will still win games, but I would say the Bears have a chance to make that leap, especially if Fields gets in there. I think Dalton can win them in some games. Their defense is still pretty good. But I think Fields also has the talent to potentially start week one. But yeah, man, that changes that whole division up like pretty crazy. I mean, Detroit too. I mean, Detroit had some games that they just, they were in early last year, then they just tanked, during the game. So, Goff has a lot to prove this year. They got the best tackle in the league to help protect them. So even Detroit can maybe make a run for it. But I think that changed that division big time if Rodgers ends up going somewhere else. And the biggest rumors I keep hearing of where Rodgers would land would maybe be Denver, which would be interesting.
If he leaves, who's your favorite to win that division?
I think probably Chicago, just because I know it seems bad there, but I thought they won more games last year than they did. But I think they have stud defensive players, right? I mean, they still got Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack, arguably one of the best defensive players, best linebackers / rush ends. So I think just with their defense, they can keep them in games. And again, I still even if Justin Fields doesn't start right away, I still think we see him this year, unfortunately, whether Dalton ends up sucking or gets hurt. Because let's be honest, I feel like after that hit he took last year, he's probably still got some CTE there going pretty strong. So who knows what's going to happen with him. But I think by week 8, we'll definitely see Justin Fields in there. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Chicago though, if I had to put money on it, because Detroit's too iffy. So what about you?
If it's not Green Bay,
who am I leaving out? Minnesota could bounce back though.
I could see the Vikings. I was about to say I could see the Vikings.
I forgot about them
making a turn here. They got a stud, Justin Jefferson. They got Thielen still there. Dalvin Cook is a monster. Their defense should be improved. I think they're going to be a tough out in that division to begin with.
Yeah.
Now
I wasn't even
Aaron
thinking about
Rodgers
them.
leaves Green Bay. That very well could be bad news for Green Bay. We'll have to see what happens, but I can see Minnesota bouncing back.
No, I agree with that. I don't know why they weren't. I wasn't even thinking about them, but I forgot.
It's tough. It's tough for me to say Chicago because rookie quarterbacks, man. It can be a difficult spot.
Yeah.
And we know Minnesota's not that far removed from making it to the NFC Championship game. So I think they have potential there.
I was just going on how shitty Trubisky was, that anything could be a little better. But no, I could see that for sure. But that's something to keep an eye on, man, with the Rodgers stuff. Like it's going to be interesting.
Yes.
You think he'd go somewhere where like even some of these teams that I think they're ready to make that run now. I mean, we'll see with Denver. I mean, I don't even know offensively. I can't even tell you like who, without looking it up, like who their studs are on offense.
For who?
Denver. So if Denver's a team that wants to go out and get Rodgers, what's that?
Oh, dude, their offense is loaded. I mean, they got Noah Fant at tight end, which I think is a excellent young player. Jerry Jeudy, Tim
That's
Patrick,
right. They drafted
Courtland
Jeudy.
Sutton. Yep, Courtland Sutton. Their offensive line got a little bit retooled there. I think it's a really good situation for Aaron Rodgers, and they've got a pretty solid defense. I mean, they got a couple really good defensive backs. Von Miller's still there. Bradley Chubb is there.
They got Chubb. And then they took who else they take? They got another linebacker. That was a stud. They just drafted him. So it's Von Miller, it's Chubb, and then damn it.
Well, they just took Surtain this year too, Patrick Surtain as a DB.
Oh, right. I could have swore. Let me see their defense. I'm gonna look this up really quick. It's gonna bug me.
Well, I'm just for me, it would make sense because I think they're a team that's on the rise, and I think Aaron Rodgers would elevate them, to a pretty high level. Do you want to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year? Is the biggest question.
That's true. They're the one. Oh, they're the ones that drafted. I think the one you were talking about, that North Carolina running back, Javonte Williams.
Yeah. They got him. They got Williams.
Oh, yep. They took Baron Browning from Ohio State. I knew they took it. I was like,
okay.
Yeah. Who, like he, dropped, but was a good player for Ohio State. Yeah. So that, I mean, they got some defense, man. So we'll see. I didn't know they had that much talent on offense. So now I can kind of, I mean, let's be real. Anywhere Rodgers is going to go, they're going to improve. So, let's not roll that out. But, if you're Coach Ron Rivera, he's got a little different philosophy when it comes to quarterbacks. We kind of talked about it. I text you. I brought this up in a text to you as a good talking point for the show that I wanted to go over because I thought it was interesting. Like, I think I understood where Ron Rivera was coming from because I had to go back and kind of look up some stuff. So, but basically, I'm going to totally butcher what he said here. But he was just making the point that he doesn't think that, and he's using the term franchise quarterback, and I think maybe you could use another term for that because you think franchise quarterback, you think Brady, like a quarterback that's going to play the next 15, 20 years. And he's basically saying the evolution of the NFL is you can still win in a lot of games and even potentially win a Super Bowl without having the franchise guy. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw Jared Goff get traded already after a couple of years, who had been to a Super Bowl. Besides Brady, and I mean, Rodgers technically has only won one Super Bowl. He's gotten pretty close. I mean, you can make the argument organizationally, not surrounding him with the talent needed. But I think I get what he was saying. What's your thoughts on his comment about, franchise quarterbacks? Basically saying if you have all the pieces in place defensively, and then all the pieces in place offensively, it just takes basically an okay average QB that can manage the game to get there.
I don't know that that's accurate. I mean, the only Super Bowl that Ron Rivera was able to get to as a head coach was when his quarterback was playing at a MVP level. You know what I mean?
That was basically 1 year. He still got there.
He got there, but his quarterback was playing at a franchise quarterback level. And then when he went back to being an average quarterback, they didn't have success.
That's true.
It's hard to say because Tom Brady really skews that argument. You know what I mean? Because he is a franchise guy, but he's also very apparent the greatest quarterback of all time. So you got to kind of throw him out by the wayside when you're talking about this because you already know what he brings to the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But guys like Peyton Manning, perennial playoff teams, making it and, winning Super Bowls and progressing far in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes in his first 3 years or 4 years has been to the playoffs and has won a Super Bowl, and has been to the AFC Championship and multiple Super Bowls. So a guy like that who's a franchise quarterback is going to be a staple, and I think he's going to be a perennial favorite to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl yearly. Aaron Rodgers, that's a guy that's a franchise quarterback, is a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, if not, Hall of Fame quarterback. Guy that's a franchise quarterback and a staple in the NFL. Who you do have your flash in the pan quarterbacks though, right? Guys that catch heaters and have really good seasons, and then the following year, you might not see necessarily the same progress or the same output statistically and team wise. There's a lot of factors that go into it though as well from a team standpoint. I mean, quarterbacks aren't solely aren't the sole reason why teams win or lose games. They're a key contributor though.
Yeah.
So to have a franchise quarterback though, like if you have that locked up, you don't have to worry about 2 years from now, we got to get a different guy because we just got an average Joe. People figured him out. Now we got to go invest assets into that. Like that stabilizes your organization, at least from a position standpoint. You've got the most stable position or the most important position in sports, all sports, locked up. Hey, we got a guy that we know is going to perform at a consistent level. We know what he's bringing to the table, and we know that he's going to, be the face of the franchise and a guy that we can rely on. Let's build the rest of the team around him. That puts you in a more consistent window there because now you know what you got to address. Really, the only downside to it is that now you're contributing a large percentage of your cap space to that position because he is the face of the franchise and the most important player in all sports. So you got to pay him as such. And that does hurt you, down the line from a cap standpoint. That's really it. But I don't know that I agree with that because, I mean, again, you can catch fire and make it far, but you could, I guess you could win a Super Bowl that way. But if you look at the staples that have been consistent producers in the playoffs, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, guys like that, they're guys that consistently make it to the furthest level.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that,
it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking at a list right now, right? And this is gonna change. Like we don't know yet. And maybe this is what he's talking about, right? Let's go the last 15 Super Bowls, right? Start it because the last one was Super Bowl 55. Let's go down to Super Bowl 40 and down, right? Ben Roethlisberger with the Steelers. He's pretty much he's about to retire. Super Bowl 41, Peyton Manning. 42, Eli Manning. You could make the argument, especially that year they won. I mean, they got in the playoffs at 10-6, but Listen, they caught fire in that playoff run and made it, and they had a good defense. But Eli Manning was a franchise quarterback for the Giants. That's true.
Regardless of what you want to say, he was a franchise guy that won 2 Super Bowls. That's not anything to slouch at. There's organizations that haven't won a single Super Bowl, and the guy's got 2. So
yep. And then after that, you got Ben Roethlisberger again. Okay. You got Drew Brees.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Eli Manning again. Then you got Super Bowl 47. You got Joe Flacco. Then you have Russell Wilson. And then Tom Brady. Peyton Manning again. Tom Brady. Nick Foles. Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes. Then Tom Brady. So Brady's going to be gone in a couple of years. The only new age quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Really, that's kind of hot in the team. Obviously, Wilson's going to be there out of all these guys, and Rodgers has some years. So two guys, not including Brady, has some years left. So we have a lot of young quarterbacks right now, and out of the young quarterbacks, so Goff was in a Super Bowl. Who else? Most of these guys that I listed, that are gone or going to be gone here shortly, are like Nick Foles. He's basically done. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We're going to find out over the next 5 to 10 years who that new age of. I mean, let's be real. No, Tom Brady's an anomaly. Like his name showed up how many fucking times? Like that's not gonna. It's gonna be hard for that to happen again. I feel like maybe Mahomes, depending on if they keep the band together. I mean, Kelsey's in his 30s now. He's still balling, but that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on to get that data. You know what I mean?
Well, that proves the point that franchise quarterbacks are the ones that see the most success.
Yeah.
You look at the names on that list,
But
besides Nick Foles and besides who was the other one that you listed?
No, Nick Foles is the only. I mean, Flacco.
Well, yeah, Flacco. I guess Flacco was considered
for
franchise
a while
guy for Baltimore, but he played okay for a while. But
after that Super Bowl win, that's when they gave him all that money, and then he just kind of sucked.
He declined, right? Yeah. Well, so besides, I would say excluding Foles and Flacco, everyone else you listed is a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
So
they do come from a different era though too. I think is also what he was saying. I think Ron Rivera was I think he was throwing that in there with the evolution of what's going on in the NFL.
Those guys are
because now
guys are on the downside of their career though too. But they're on the say all those guys retire within the next 3 years.
Yeah,
I still think you need to have a viable, consistent quarterback, aka a franchise quarterback, to be successful in the NFL. I mean, if you want to roll the dice and try to make it with a guy that's only going to be in your organization for 2 years, then you got to reassess and go through it again. I mean, be my guest, Ron Rivera. You know what I mean? I don't see it that way. Good quarterbacks will consistently play well, and you'll find out if you had a flash in the pan or if you have a true franchise quarterback. It's apparent Patrick Mahomes was not a flash in the pan. That's a guy that is a franchise guy, Yeah. But guys like Lamar Jackson's made it to the playoffs, and
he was someone I'm going to bring
playoff game, and
he's someone I was going to bring up when we get to the Ravens portion because I'm going to piggyback on what I said when he was drafted too on something.
Stuff like that. You got if Deshaun Watson was not in the trouble that he's in, and he was actually in a decent organization, that'd be a guy that's considered a franchise guy.
Mm-hmm.
Making it to the playoffs and producing. We'll see. I think we got to see a consistency out of Josh Allen this year, to see whether or not he's a franchise guy. A lot of people think he's going to be, and optimistic about it. But it was last year a fluke, a la Blake Bortles, or was it consistent thing? I think you see guys like Ryan Tannehill who have been playing in the league and have finally gotten to a good situation that doesn't involve Adam Gase as your head coach, and what he can consistently do, as a quarterback making it to the playoffs. And I think these guys are you can consider them franchise quarterbacks. I wouldn't necessarily consider them elite level players. Patrick Mahomes, obviously elite level player. The guy's got a Super Bowl. Yeah. He's an elite level player, but I think you do need an established franchise quarterback that's going to be – it gives your organization consistency. And what they bring to the table, and how they're going to perform, and you can use all – that's one position, the most important position in football. You don't have to waste resources on. You can dive into the draft, free agents, et cetera, and build the team the way you need to build the team to make it to the Super Bowl at that point. So I think it's a huge benefit to have a guy like that.
Yeah, and it's not to say you can't win a Super Bowl with fuck, dude. When the Raiders got there with Rich Gannon in 2002, there's those years. Wasn't Kyle Bowler who won with the Ravens the first time? You know what I mean? So there's guys that just play well enough for a short period of time that get there and win as well. But I don't know. It's the next 5 years. I think are going to be the next 5 Super Bowls. We're going to find out a lot. Who is the next, obviously minus Patrick Mahomes, who's the next group of guys that are going to be battling? You know what I mean? After seeing that list that I just read off, that's what that makes me think of. And I think that's going to be fascinating to see because we got a lot of new quarterbacks coming in. You know what I mean? Even right now, like we said,
it could be the same group of guys. Honestly, the NFL's changed to the point where it's quarterback friendly and your quarterbacks are protected so much more. It could be the next 5 years. It could be Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers still with Pat Mahomes. You know what I mean? Those guys could play to 40 plus and not really see a drop off just because of, how the NFL trends for quarterbacks. You touch a guy, you put one finger on a guy's helmet as a quarterback, you're penalized 15 yards. You're not even allowed to fucking, high five a guy. You know what I mean? Hey, good play, Aaron, 15-yard penalty, you're ejected from the game. You're not even allowed to breathe on these dudes. So, they're going to play forever. I think
you can't fucking suplex them anymore. Like back in the 80s when
right,
or it might have been 70s,
right,
where Bradshaw got fucking.
Oh, dude.
After the play.
Oh yeah, those guys absolutely just got shit stomped.
Right.
It's just, but you can't do that anymore. So quarterbacks have a little bit longer life expectancy than you would probably see 20 years ago.
That's true. I mean, it makes the league money.
Which, honestly, if you get a stable guy and he can play like that forever, like that's even more of a reason why you would want a franchise quarterback.
Yeah,
because they're so protected now too.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like I think I understand where Ron Rivera is coming from. Although I do think, I mean, listen, being a Browns fan, dude, like we didn't have a quarterback for fucking 30 years, so I totally get what consistency at the position is doing right now. Like with Baker going into his second year of legit consistency for the first time since he was in college, and the Browns like first time ever. So same system, like that's gonna be great. You know what I mean? So I totally get it.
But that's like if you're going to go along with Ron Rivera, that's like saying, okay, after next year we're going to get rid of Baker and go a different route because we don't have, he's a franchise guy, but we don't need franchise quarterbacks. We need to, so like it's just like Browns fans saying, all right, see you, Baker. We're going to go with the next guy that's available. The kid out of Liberty that's coming out next year. Like, that's what we're doing. We're drafting a kid from Liberty to learn an offensive system now.
We'll see if his philosophy works. I mean, Washington's got the defense. They got that defensive line. The only thing, and I think Fitzpatrick will win them games. They brought in another receiver to go along with I'm drawing a blank on his name, dude. He's like my best receiver in fantasy.
Darby Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel going out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, I think Fitzpatrick can win them games, but they need a backup plan quarterback. I think it's just Fitzmagic and I'm trying to think who else they have on their roster right now, quarterback, but it ain't that deep. So interesting plan they got out there. But, I think they'll compete I think Dallas is still going to move up and take that division and be the most improved team in that division because offensively wasn't their issue. It was a defense, and they got some pieces there. So I still think Dallas is king in that division going into next season. But I think Washington will be fighting for it for sure still, despite what they have going on at quarterback there. Let's get into, wrap this up. Let's get into some I wrote down a few games here. We again, schedule's coming out a little bit later in a couple hours, but they did release week 1 matchups, and I just wrote down a couple here. If there's a couple that I didn't write down that you want to talk about, feel free. First one, let's talk about your week 1 matchup, your Bills versus the Steelers. Now, I'm going to love watching the Bills beat the shit out of the Steelers, so this is great. I mean, they're on at the same time as the Browns are, but I can put both screens up and keep the Bills in the corner and cheer every time the Josh Allen slaps the Steelers defense with his big old dick.
It's interesting that we got the Pittsburgh early because the last couple of years we've played them. We've played them later in the season. You're playing later in the season where Big Ben's hurt one year, and you're going up against Duck Hodges, and you're playing them later in the year where Big Ben and Juju and those guys are kind of Bud Dupree gets hurt, and you're kind of playing a little bit weaker of a squad because of some of the injuries and things that have happened. And as evidenced last year, as the year went on, Ben kind of deteriorated a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
He didn't play at the top of his game. Pittsburgh plays their best football typically early in the year.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me a little nervous. You know what I mean? Like if we're going to get Pittsburgh, like I'd much rather have them in the back half of the year than in the front half of the year. But needless to say, that's a week 1 matchup. I think it's going to be a great week 1 matchup. It's a 1:00 game. It's in Orchard Park for the first time where, the Bills are most likely going to have, a decent capacity at the stadium. I think it'll be a damn good game, and it's one that the Bills need to win. To start off the year 1-0. I'm looking at because pretty much by all the leaks and the things that have come out, we have an idea of really what the schedule looks like for the Bills, just utilizing some deductive reasoning. And we don't have official dates on some of the games, but looking at the first 4 games that it's projected, with Pittsburgh, then at Miami, then versus Washington football team, and then home against Houston, the Bills, you would like to see them get out to a 4-0 start there. You really would. With obviously tough games against Pittsburgh, I think that's going to be a tough matchup. At Miami, I think is going to be an interesting matchup, but also a difficult one with some of the things they've done this year. Washington football team, their defense is fucking outstanding. It's going to be a difficult matchup there. And then Houston, that should be a win based on I'm just expecting Tyrod Taylor to be quarterback. Shit. You know what I mean? Like
right. They're dog
shit.
Yeah,
that should be something to keep an eye on too. But I would very much.
I don't see Texans.
Hope with that.
I don't see the Texans. It's going to be hard for them to win a game. They might.
It'll be tough, especially if Deshaun doesn't play this year.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
glad.
Him to.
I'm glad they're getting Houston somewhat early, though, if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, if his shit doesn't get settled until later in the year, like, I'm glad that we're getting him early so that way we don't have to go up against Deshaun Watson. Yeah. But who knows with what's going to happen with his, his stuff. And I haven't seen or heard anything really lately indicating that, that
even if he does play, dude, that's a lot of pressure, man. It's going to take some years off your life, that whole thing that's going on right now. So,
yep.
Even if he does play, like, I just think that's a lot of pressure to deal with, dude. So, but yeah, no, I think the Steelers game, the Steelers fans are excited about Najee Harris. I mean, Najee Harris is good. Dude, Pouncey retired. I think their offense, like, what offensive line? They got stud receivers, yes. You got a aging Ben Roethlisberger who clearly physically is not what he once was because he's fucking old now, and he's not like he's not mobile like Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? He was always the big guy, so it's not serving him well anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm not really scared of that. So I think the Bills honestly go into this game and kind of take it to them. Now the week 1 games are always kind of, for the most part, I feel like everybody's not in rhythm yet. You know what I mean? So it could be closer than because due to that reason, but I think the Bills should be able to go in there and control. You said it's a home game too, right?
Yep.
First home game. So. But the Bills, dude, first they haven't been able to break tables in a year, dude. It's gonna be so fucking hype in that stadium, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's in continuity standpoint, you're returning all the pieces that you had last year. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're one of the most consistent teams too.
Outside of
that coaching staff's been together for what, 4 years now?
Yeah. So like you're going in pretty much the same roster. You got a lot of, the standards set, the expectations are set, the scheme is already in place. Like there's not really a huge learning curve. You're really able to just go in and compete and really prepare for that first week. And still while addressing, and assessing rookies at that standpoint or young players to see who makes the roster for that player. So
did they address? Because I remember you telling me their DNs are kind of on the older side. They did get some younger guys.
They drafted 2 of them. Yeah, they drafted 2 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Like, I mean, it's still nerve wracking though, because like Pittsburgh's always a good team. They're a tough out. Right. Well coached, tough out with a good defense. Like,
I'm just hating.
So we'll really get to see it. No, I get it. We'll see what happens. But the Bills have fared pretty well against them the last couple of years, and I think that Brian Dable dials up a good strategy to help figure out a way to really that the defense is their strong point. We're really gonna see some. I'm hoping some creativity there and. And come out with a dub. So, but opening week, I'm curious though, Justin, this is going to be a really interesting study for me, especially with a lot of the teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. With stadiums coming back to full capacity, I'm really curious to see how offenses are affected because last year, and I'm just looking at it from the Bills standpoint, the Bills and Josh Allen did a lot of communication at the line and a lot of calls, and their offense, the Earhart Perkins offense, is really predicated on communicating routes and communicating, a lot of different, technical aspects and checks. They're called check with me's at the line where the quarterback's able to make those signals and those call outs. You could hear it on film and on the broadcast copies of games last year.
Oh yeah, you can hear a lot of good shit.
I think that was a really big advantage
All the
for guys that
F-bombs.
had plans. Well, I mean, but even
you can
just
hear the
for
call,
quarterbacks that had, for quarterbacks that had a plan of attack at the line of scrimmage, now you're going to throw the crowd noise back in. I'm really curious to see who regresses, who steps up, what sort of plans are in place with the crowd noise after a year where we saw there wasn't any of that. You know what I mean? Like how things change a little bit within that style. So
that's why I think the whole Zach Wilson deal with the Jets, it's like, hey man, like he had this one good season at BYU with, again, no, I don't know what their stadium holds, but like they're not, they're on the smaller end with smaller leagues, I guess you could say they play in. So you're asking this kid to go to the Jets in New York, big media, full stadium in year one and be the guy. Like that's a tall task, you know what I mean? But no, I agree with you. I think it's going to change some things too, preparing for that. Like maybe not some of the veterans, but like, people who are rookies last year or, that kind of thing. Cause they didn't get to experience that at the NFL level. So it's an interesting point. It's definitely going to, I'd say there's more home field advantage maybe in college compared to the pros. I mean, it's still a thing. I would say college is a little bit more hype if you're the home team. Stadium's bigger, and it's, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but yeah, no, it's definitely a good point. So I don't know, man.
Well, I'm just curious, to see, because I think there was, some teams that took advantage of that and had a lot of really good plans in place for, utilizing the lack of crowd noise on offense to your advantage. You know what I mean? Even in road games, specifically in road games. So I'm curious to see how that makes a change, but it's looking like you kind of wrap up the Bills schedule side of it a little bit. It's looking like they're going to get 4 national games or primetime games this year, which is awesome. Good to see another Thanksgiving game, which is solid against the Saints. So I want to see the official schedule kind of analyze, home, away, what are we looking at, short weeks, things like that, because that's all stuff that really is important versus, just the schedule in general. We already know the opponents. I'm just curious to see, when they play, who are we facing off a short week? Who are we, got a little bit of extra rest for, bye weeks? Who do we play after road trips, et cetera? So, kind of diving into that's always going to be fun. But I hear the Brownies got kind of a tough first week matchup.
With all the records the Browns have been breaking lately, you would think that they'd break this one, because I don't think they've won not just a home opener, like a week one game. I don't think they've won since like early 2000s. Dude, it's been a long time. I don't know. It's been a long time. And like you going into a year where you got a lot of high hopes, you know what I mean? That's one that would in week one matchup as Kansas City. It's like shit. So, but at the same time though, like I think it's a good test for this new Browns secondary and this new defense. Starting out playing one of the best offenses in the league, seeing what you got, and how much you improved. Kansas City did, they lost some key linemen. They just Long's coming out of retirement to play guard for them. Don't really know how, that year off's going to be for him. They did get, was it Orlando Brown from the Ravens?
Yes.
Yeah. So they did get some pieces back that they lost. So it should be a good game, 1:00 game. But I mean, it kind of sucks that, the Browns have a chance of not being able to win that fucking week one game. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I mean, I'm going to be pumped. Would I rather play Kansas City early than later when they're in rhythm? I could make that argument, versus late in the season. Because even if the Browns lose this game, it's not the end of the world. They can bounce back from it and have the whole season to kind of get rolling. You know what I mean? So I wish it was going to be a primetime game, honestly. But it is what it is.
Listen, like you alluded to, I mean, they haven't won a home opener or even just an opening day game in a while, but they're able to still bounce back from it with, multiple games remaining in the season. It's a really tough out. As much as we despise and not necessarily take a lot of points from Colin Cowherd, he did bring up a really good point that Andy Reid's probably the best September coach in the NFL. I'm pretty sure he's like 32-0. And Patrick Mahomes is 32-0 in September games or something like that. I believe is what it was. Or Andy Reid's 32-0 and Patrick Mahomes is like undefeated in September. So it's kind of it's a real tough start to the season.
Yeah.
You already know that the Chiefs are going to be bringing out some new looks and some new, fun things to do. So tough out. I mean, obviously, I think the Chiefs are going to be favored in that game regardless. And, but outside of that, you guys have plenty of opportunity to bounce back after that opening week if things pan out the way we think they're going to pan out. So, but I heard you guys might have a Christmas game.
That's the rumor,
Christmas
man.
Day game too.
Christmas Day, yeah, that's pretty wild.
Maybe against Aaron Rodgers,
maybe
less
not.
Packers. Yeah, maybe hey, Aaron might or might not be there. So,
waiting game. We don't really know, but that would be crazy. I don't even remember. I mean, usually, besides that's Detroit on Thanksgiving, but usually good teams I feel like play on holidays for the most part. But yeah, that'll be kind of crazy to get a Christmas Day game. I don't even know what.
Well, did you guys did you guys play Christmas Day last year? I swore the Browns played on a holiday last year.
I don't know. Let's see.
I could have swore. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure you guys did.
Dude,
play
that's kind of cool. Christmas is on a Saturday too. That's pretty dope. Yeah. Pretty dope. But yeah, no,
it kind of sucks because I wish it was a weekday because then I would have had that day off. From work. But hey, whatever.
But no, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the season for both the Bills and the Browns. I mean, when's the last time the Bills and Browns both at the same time have been fucking relevant? So that's good for the NFL, I think.
I agree.
If there's any other games like this, we can talk about more. But the primetime game, or no, before we get to the primetime game, Dallas versus Tampa Bay is interesting. Dak coming back, get to see how that ankle is. But here's the thing about Tampa Bay, man. Like the fact they were able to not lose anything is incredible. I mean, they have that defense is coming back. Like we want to talk about consistency, like we talked about earlier. That's pretty big deal. I mean, those linebackers and that I don't know if they got Sue back, but like for the most part, like pieces are in place. You know what I mean? Like as long as that defense is healthy, like they're going to be tough to beat, I think. Still, so good luck, Dallas. We'll get to see how that defense is. Pretty big test. Kind of like the Browns with that defense, the new defense coordinator and the new pieces they got in place. I do think, like I said, Dallas will bounce back, but that's a interesting matchup. And I want to see Dak back with that offense because arguably the best receiving core in football. You can make that argument. I think young, speed. I don't know offensive line wise.
It's honestly both those teams. You're probably looking at with Tampa Bay versus Dallas. You're looking at two top 3 receiving cores.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
Yeah,
Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown versus CD. Mari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Like those are dynamite. That's a dynamite offense right there.
Yeah, and I mean Zeke's kind of fell, but I think that's due also to the lack of offensive line because it's not the same offensive line that we're used to the Cowboys having. So I can't even remember if they beefed that up in the offseason. I'd have to really dive into that and see if they addressed the offensive line at all. But this primetime game for week 1 is Raiders versus the Ravens. And, I don't know where that game's at, if it's in Vegas or not. But let me tell you something. It's in Vegas? Oh, dude, yep. I texted you the other day, bro. Vegas is changing the game, dude. Building basically a nightclub in their end zone, dude, where you get VIP bottle service, DJs. What?
That's the sole reason I think they put that as a primetime game. We never got to see the 2 new stadiums for the Rams or the Raiders.
True.
We never got to see those stadiums with a full capacity of fans, right?
Yeah, that's true.
guess what? The NFL said, we want to showcase these brand new stadiums that have been built with fans, with the atmosphere to show you what the NFL product looks like in, badass stadiums. We're going to put these on prime time. We're going to have fans in the stands. And that's, I think, the biggest draw to why, it was Vegas versus Baltimore, a playoff team that I think has a pretty good following and typically gets decent ratings on TV. And I'm not sure who the Rams are scheduled to play, but that looks like they're going to be a home opener as well.
That makes sense.
And you're going to get to showcase both those awesome stadiums. Right. So you get to showcase that stadium. Exactly. I'm pretty sure it is.
I think so.
Yeah. So you're looking at, you get to showcase those stadiums. You get to showcase the nightclub. I'm sure, that that's going to be a fucking just chaotic environment.
Well, it does. You know what it does too is, Vegas is a very touristy spot as well. I think what it does is, like, regardless of who you're a fan of, they're going to be getting a lot of people going to those games as something to do.
Well, it's like a club. Like, you get to eat, like, it's like a dine-in restaurant or whatever, and then like an actual club there. So it's like I want,
because I don't live far away, I could fly to Vegas in 45 minutes, but like, I want to go watch a game there just to watch. I don't even necessarily care who's playing to an extent. Like, I'd pick a good game to go to, but I want to go just watch a game there, dude. I was supposed to go last year before all the COVID stuff.
Again, so, I think that's why they're putting these games in prime time. Yeah. So you can kind of see what that environment's going to look like with fans in the stadium.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I expect the Ravens to win that game, There's a really good, what I wanted to bring up, I mentioned we get to with the Ravens is, like, I said when Lamar got drafted, I figured he was going to be good with his athleticism and, like, what the Ravens did to build around him. But I also said that I don't think 10 years from then, like, long term, his skill set would be able to be maintained, because using his legs like he does, he doesn't take too much damage, but, I mean, Michael Vick's in his 40s still running a 4.7, which is pretty impressive, but it takes a lot, right? And at some point, like, we saw defenses, adjust, like great defensive coaches do, with schemes and stuff. And, they draft these receivers, and their OC was talking about how, like, evolving the offense a little bit. But it's weird because, like, back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons for Lamar. Like, it works with what he's doing. They can win games. They can get the playoffs. Finally got a playoff game. So, like, I think it's kind of a big year to see that next adjustment for Lamar, because I guess the point I'm trying to make is, like, I feel like if he doesn't make the adjustment in terms of, like, becoming a little bit better passer, longevity, I question, with him in that offense. Like, it's great. It's electrifying. It can get you pretty far. But how long until defenses shut that shit down? You know what I mean? Without that, I think it was Nathan Zegura that was, I'd have to, maybe, I don't have it right in front of me. I'd have to write it down. Maybe I'll go back and listen to it today and maybe, like, tweet it out or whatever. But some of the stats that Zegura was pointing out about Lamar with that, like, I guess from the year before last, there were some besides the rushing, there was some passing numbers that declined significantly. Like, what's the percentage, the completion percentage and stuff like that. So it's pretty big drop off. So we'll see what happens in this. What is this, year 4 for Lamar? I think it's year 4.
Going to year 4.
So yeah, dude, I still think, and because, they're discussing extensions right now, but, like, Lamar also doesn't have an agent. It's his mom. So that's going to be interesting. That's a whole nother thing. It's going to be interesting to see if they get a deal done. But I don't know. I think the Ravens are going to be a team to watch here to see if they can get over that playoff hump a little bit. So,
well, I think they need to develop from a schematic standpoint. I think they need to get a little bit more involved in the passing game to begin with. Some newer scheme wise. I don't think I don't think Greg Roman did him any favors later in the year. But yes, Lamar is going to have to develop as a passer a little bit more. I mean, he's not a bad passer by any stretch of the imagination, but what's those physical elite physical traits start to diminish and teams are able to catch up to you, a little bit more from that standpoint, you're going to have other tools in the tool bag. That's all there is to it. So, but then again, they're doing what they can to put weapons around them, kind of circling, full circle back to the conversation we had about Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing what they can to put weapons around him to be successful. So it's on him now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But it's definitely something to bring up, a good thing. Like, I know, the way they were playing, and like, I still think the Ravens are capable of winning a Super Bowl right now. But the window, I think after, as you start creeping towards that 10-year mark on Lamar, I think, and if it hasn't happened yet, that's when you can kind of be like, oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. So I don't know, but it's a crazy league. We never know. I mean, there's always teams that come back from sucking the year before. And we'll see. But that's why next week, I think, and it's cool. We got to keep track of this next week when we do this on the show. Since we had a lot to talk about today, go through the divisions, pick who is going to win each division.
Okay.
And we could go a little farther than that if we want to, but I think that'll be kind of a good thing we can start with is our early predictions on who wins each division. I think that'll be fun.
Do some schedule analysis here when they're official and see who's got tough schedules and try to figure out who's gonna be division favorites. Yep. I dig it.
Yeah, some of them I think are going to be hard. Like I don't really know. I mean, I'm leaning towards like the Rams in the in their division, but like you never really know what's going to happen with the Cardinals right now. You know what I mean? And then I mean Russell. As long as you had Russell Wilson with Seahawks, you're probably going to be decent. But dude, I have no idea. They seem to win some games, but like I don't know. So it's going to be a little harder, I think. To kind of pick. So. Dude, I know you don't really watch UFC or like any kind of combat sports, but dude, I don't really watch boxing, but I watched. We were all working. We watched the Canelo fight over the weekend.
Okay,
dude, like he broke dude's orbital bone. You know how fucking hard you know how hard you have to hit the fucking with 16-ounce gloves on to break someone's fucking orbital bone. They stopped the fight. It just looked like a black eye, right?
Pretty hard.
It looked like just a black eye, and they ended up stopping the fight because he couldn't see out of his eye; it was swollen shut. But then it came out that this dude's fucking orbital bone and shit. There was more to it than that. It goes a little deeper, but fucking shattered. It's like what?
That's insane.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
There's some good UFC fights on tonight or Saturday as well. I'll probably have to work, so I probably won't get to watch it. But so the only thing that's keeping me sane right now until football season comes back.
It takes a special person to go out and have to like beat the shit out of each other. Like there's no way. There's no way I could do it.
Like I've been training Muay Thai, and like you see some of the dudes that compete, and you're like, the way they talk and shit about it is kind of weird to me because like I'll train all day, get a good workout in. Eventually I'm going to have to spar because there's important things of sparring, like in terms of like using the skills you're developing, you know what I mean? And kind of how to apply it. But like, I have no interest in actually getting in the ring, competing, you know what I mean? But like those dudes are kind of psychopaths. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
There's no way, dude.
Like being in it and seeing it. And it's like, fuck, dude, especially like none of these guys are getting paid. I don't think, you know what I mean? Cause everybody's amateur. So like,
and they're fearless, man. They're just absolutely fearless. Yeah. They walk in there like, all right, we're just going to kick the shit out of each other and call it a day.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. Nope. Especially, and you can argue boxing's even more dangerous than some of those, even though Muay Thai is pretty brutal, but like in boxing, it's like you're taking a lot of fucking punches and they spar like crazy. So you're taking so many shots to the head. Like, and you can tell like some of the people that I've seen like that have been fighting for a while, just the way they talk and stuff. You're like, dude, they've taken some shots, dude. Like it shows, dude. It's pretty quick. It's crazy. It's weird because I watch it. It's entertaining, but it's a fucking tough go. Because even if you're a champion, it's like, I mean, Canelo doesn't really take too much damage, and Mayweather didn't really take too much. Some of these guys, though, when they get old, they're fucked up. So I don't know.
Well, you got to be in the right mindset, and you cannot you can't be physically you got to be physically and mentally prepared to go into that ring. Otherwise, you are really endangering your life. To be honest with you.
But what's funny though? I've watched these videos where they're like oh, an Irish guy watches NFL for greatest hits for the first time, or like not Chinese, but Japanese or Thai people watch NFL greatest hits for the first time. Like people who don't, in other countries who don't have NFL. Like think about you're seeing the game for the very first time, and the first thing anybody shows you is the craziest hits. They think we're fucking nuts for playing that, or those guys are nuts for playing the game. And for us, it's like it's so normal. It's like, well, it's a good hit, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that's kind of funny. So we kind of look at it the same way.
Right.
You know all
right, yeah.
But it's because to us it's so normal. But they're like, this game's brutal and violent. And even some of the people like Australia, I've seen like them watch this video, and like they have rugby, but they're like this is legal. You can hit somebody like that. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny hearing their perspective, even from a sport like rugby, which is a tough sport. So, but yeah, it's when you think about it is kind of fucking crazy. When you think about it,
some of the toughest athletes too, outside of UFC and football players and rugby players, soccer players. If you've ever seen them get tackled, like the pain that they're in, it's unbelievable, dude. Yeah, it's just, I've never seen so many gruesome, just like, oh my god, this dude's in so much pain. Oh, he got right back up. Look at that, dude. Their bodies heal so quick. It's unbelievable. They're fucking freakazoids. They're cyborgs, man.
Dude, it's funny. Because some of them are soccer fans that watch these videos, and like some of these hits are like, they're like, dude, that person has to be dead. He's dead, right? Because they can't believe that some of these dudes get up. Yep. But yeah, dude, it's soccer, fucking soccer. I don't get it.
Well, it's like
they're
Cole
athletes.
Beasley played. in the postseason with a broken leg. Like, right. I don't know, a break right below his knee. Like, and the tough hockey players, just tough motherfuckers, man. Motherfuckers.
I don't know. Fucking sports, dude. Can't wait for football to be back.
Yes, soon. It's on its way. We got training camps.
We got OT. We got what?
We're OTAs. OTAs and training camps are coming up here in the next month or so.
Yeah. In-person OTA, because I think a lot of the players skip voluntary workouts and then I know like Baker and Javaris and all them were working down in Florida, and then I think they're going to be back here on this weekend. Is it this weekend? I could have swore I saw May like 15th, whatever. I don't know. Each team's a little different, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming quick. We got about what?
Yes, sir.
May, June, July. What, 2.5 months or so?
Yeah, about 2 months. Yeah, roughly 2.5 months.
Yeah, until camp starts, and then we're right in the preseason games basically after a week or two after that. So,
yes, sir.
It's coming, dude. It's coming. Can't wait. Pumped. It's going to be a good season. And
hell yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get into our season, continue our, festive pick'ems, and back to shotgunning our beers.
Yes.
By the way, I had a really rough Cinco de Mayo. Speaking of alcohol, I paid the price for about 4 days. Yeah, it was Drunk Max came out, and I talk a lot of shit. But like I was like times 10 talking so much shit that like
it wasn't Cinco de Mayo for you. It was Cinco de Drinko for you, my friend.
Absolutely. Yep. Tequila all fucking day, dude. All fucking day.
Nice. Yep.
If you guys want to follow us, on Twitter, on the Twitters or TikTok at AJXO Pod. My personal handle is at Justin_Maxim.
You guys can hit me at BillsFan53, B1LLSFan53 on the old tweet machine. Hashtag Cinco de Drinko. We're in here.
Yeah, dog. I'm going to be putting probably up some. I've been doing a lot of polls lately on the Twitters, and I've been getting some responses. So I'm going to keep hitting people with some poll questions. So I'll figure it out. What we got?
Stripper questions?
Yeah, maybe.
With the polls?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
We do that.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week. And y'all be sweet.